whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hook of force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā ko nā whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira whakarongo pi kari mai. Hare mai, o Taringa hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that body. Tuia ki runga, tuia ki raro, tuia ngā herenga tangata karanga te pō, nau mai te ao, nau mai e ngā iwi, nau mai, hara mai ki tō tātou nei whare kōrero o Taringa, e whakapāho atu nei kia koutou katoa i tēnei rā. Tēnā rā koutou katoa i aku rangatira, kia koutou, kia kouroa hoki, Jared, roti rā kia koe te tuahine kahurangi, nau mai, hoki mai. Ki tā tātou whare kōrero o Taringa.
Ai, tēnā tātou.
Kia ora.
Ai, tēnā koutou. Hoi no ko mātou. Ko hau nahe nei i tēnei rā e whakapāhu atu ana i te Kupu o Te Awamatu. Kei raro hoki nei i te taumarumarutanga o te wānanga o te aroa. Me ngā mihi hoki ki o tātou kaimanaki nei. Irirangi te motu, tainotu kia koutou te māngai pāho. Tēnā koutou.
You know what, e te whānau, I just got to say, and I want to say it right here and now, I just love the word nahi.
Nee.
It just does something, you know? And I've been trying to use it, you know, ka kōrero anau ki aku hoa o te tai tokerau. I try and use nahi as much as I can. Because I just reckon it sounds cool.
Yeah, tikata.
Tēnā koe. It's just he Māori te whakaputa. Ētahi wā.
Yes.
Koina.
Ai, ana i tērā. Yeah. Engari ka haere koe ki wāhi ke atu e ka hua ka titiro korotaha atu e tahi penei aku tamahine i konei i te aroa nei, ia rau e haere ana ki ngā kohanga reo ka mea taku pōtiki. Ka haere au ai nei, ka mea ngā kaia ko te aroa, hea tēnā kupu.
Yeah.
Me tahi atu kupu no te taitokerau.
Aini, yeah.
A tāhua.
I got a lot of favourites of te taitokerau. Nahi is one.
Yes.
And then I also love horekauke.
Horekauke.
Oh,
and then
beautiful.
E tai wā ka whakarapopotongia ki te kōrero kauke.
Oh, true.
Yeah, kauke aku kupu ki te rā kōrero. Kauke aku kupu.
Yeah.
Kauke.
Yeah.
Nē hoa.
Hoi noi te iwi, we're back at our another Kupu, which I think is probably one of the most listened to segments of Taringa. And once again, we're joined by the one, the only, MC Grandma.
Ana.
Whatever.
Hei, kea koe te mane nai nei kia whakatairanga nei, kia whakamana nei tō wāhi noho rā.
Oh, me mutu tēnā kōrero e tai. Ne? It's not a very nice place to try and whakatairanga today. It's a bit cloudy, you know, ahua kāpua puani konei.
Ana.
Ka mutu kua korongo au i te maike i enei rangi.
Ai.
You know, and I thought, here we go. Hoa noe hoa ma. I bet kahurangi must be like that over in Te Rotorua Nui a Kahumata Momoe.
Ai, e mea ana koe, it's so cold and we just got into autumn there, so
Tika.
Ka roha tātou, i wā tātou nei hoki.
Aini pia koina te utu mo te wera. E wera ai tō wāhi noho me maike hoki, me rongo hoki nei te kōpeke. Ai. Kamatu koina te raurau o te whenua, ne, te whakatakatoruanga o te whenua. Ko koutou ka rongo nei ngā hautonga.
Te puku o te ika.
Te puku o te ika, ai, koe hoki.
E tika ana ka pāho ki te hau ki te roto, anā. Ka rere i te takiwā, huhu.
Ai. Oe no, kei te pai.
Ohoe no e hoa ma. Tēnā tātou, i tēnei rā, i tēnei wāhanga o kupu. Ai nōko anō te honore ki te hautū i ngā tātou kōrero i te rangi nei.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koe.
A ka mutu, me tingmata pia ki tā tātou ki waha. So to all our Taringa listeners out there, I think, and surely through all the episodes that we've gone through, we must have come across this kiwaha at some time. And the kiwaha that I want to reshare was a favourite one of my grandfather's. Now, I always talk about my grandmother, but, you know, very rarely do I talk about my grandfather. And our kiwaha for today is Heoi anō.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Heoi anō.
Heoi anō.
Probably we've discussed this before, but, you know, ka haere ana mātou ki te marae, and people would ask my grandfather, e hone, e pewhea ana koe? And he would just say, oh, heoi anō. And they would roll their eyes at him. You know, I can remember ngā kuia e. And for those of us who don't understand what heoi anō means in this context, is, well, you know, so-so.
So-so.
It's not actually a clear answer. And so that's what he would say, that was his go-to, where a lot of us now, especially our learners, when asked, kei te pēhea koe o e pēwhi ana koe, we would normally say, oh, well, kei te pai, even though we're not.
Aye.
Yeah, but that used to be my grandfather's favourite word. Heoi anō. And of course, that was not a clear answer. But I thought, it's probably not a new kiwaha to the majority of our Taringa listeners. But what I thought is that we could possibly extend on this kiwaha into another kiwaha that is used by a lot of more confident speakers.
Yes.
And ko tēnei kiwaha is heoi anō tāu.
Kia ora.
Yeah, heoi anō tāu. So it's an extension on our heoi anō. Now, heoi anō tāu, my translation of that is, well, all you have to do.
That's right.
Yeah, all you have to do. Heoi anō tā tātou. Yeah, all we have to do. So in terms of this kiwaha being able to use in everyday conversation, I think when we take that step from heoi anō to heoi anō tāu, heoi anō tā tātou, heoi anō tāna, all those sorts of things, there's quite a clear transition. And all it basically means is all you have to do, or within the context, all we have to do.
Yes.
As an example, e tai ai ki Tahiti, heoi anō tā tātou, he pina moni.
Kia ora.
Yeah, ka pai. And so, to our Taringa listeners out there, this is a kiwaha that I think that we can use quite often. It's not a very hard kiwaha to use, but we just need to make sure that we put it within the context.
Aye.
Now, mo etahi o ngā kai whakarongo o Taringa e whakarongo maira, perhaps they're asking themselves, well, if the translation is all you have to do, where's the do within that kiwaha?
Kia ora.
Heoi anō tāu, ne? So for someone who may be just starting their te reo Māori journey, they're probably looking for a word like mahi
Yes.
within the kiwaha to explain the do part of the English translation. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of and awe in this episode as
Here
well.
we go.
Pertaining to whakapapa. And the mahi is actually implied within the heoi anō tāu,
Kia ora.
heoi anō tā tātou. And maybe, Kahurangi, can you explain to us how we think mahi is implied? I'm just putting it out there, e te whānau.
Is it often a response to something that, ana he pātai tēnei pia,
Ka pai.
whakaro nei au ki aku tamahine ka hoha pia raiwa, they're like, ka reo te hihia mahi tēnei mahi, and you say, hoi anō tāu he tatara.
Ka pai.
Often a response to something, or between the person that you're talking to, you know what you're talking about.
Ka pai tēnā.
Yeah.
Whakaro pai. Pewhi kia koe e tai hei?
Ko te tohu ki a hau nei, ko te whakamahinga o te kupu tā.
Ai.
Tā tātou, tāu. Nā reira e tohu ana ki a hau nei, he mahi kei te whai.
Koira.
I roto i tēnei horopaki nei. Ko tāu he pena pūtea. Hei ko tāna, all those types of kupu. Rawa tino mohia hea te ingoa o aua kupu rā, e tai? What are the...
Yeah, the Pākehā, yeah.
When we're talking about the āno categories, it's implied within the actual kiwaha because we've used the word tāu or tā tātou or tāna. And because we know that any action or any mahi is in the ā category, there's no reason to add in the word mahi because it's already covered within the tāu, within the possessives, so on and so forth. And that's why this kiwaha, it's implied that there's an action.
Ai,
ne?
Action, koe.
Hoi anō tāu, hoi anō tā tātou. Nō reira hoa mā, e mau ai e te āhuaranga o te whakapapa, hoi anō tā tātou, he kōrero, he matapaki.
Kia ora.
Ne, he whakawhiti whakaaro. Nō reira hoa mā, that's our kiwaha, and hopefully that today, we've got a pātai.
Yes.
See, etahi wā ka te ahua te whakatakotoranga o te kupu heoi anō H-E-O-I. Engari, but sometimes you see, o ka rongo koe i te whakahua o hoi. Is that like a dialectual thing, or is it, I know it doesn't, it's still the same kupu, but often you see hoi anō or heoi anō or Heoi, oh no.
Heoi, heoti.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of them.
Yeah.
Just as Te Puaheidi said, you've got heoi, you've got hoi, you've got heoti.
Heoti, yes.
I've even heard whioi anō.
Whioi anō,
yes.
Aye.
Oh my gosh. And that's, no roto ake ia mātou, but my ears haven't become quite accustomed to that way of...
Aye.
Yeah.
O hoi anō,
Yeah.
Koe nei te reo Māori me ona rerekētanga. Yeah, so you're absolutely right here, kare. Hoi, heoi, heoti, whioi, and I'm pretty sure there may be a couple out there, but ko taua tikanga anō.
Yeah.
Kau ke ana rerekētanga neha.
Ai.
Yeah. So it's not it's not like he arei te ture kei a koe te tikanga mehena ka whakamahi koe. None of them are wrong or right.
Yeah.
Kei a koe.
Aye, koina. But I must say, and I'm not saying it can't happen, but I haven't heard heotia no tāu.
Aye.
Yes.
As the kiwaha.
I haven't heard that either. Yeah.
I haven't heard that variation yet.
No, ahau hoki.
Aye.
And I think Heoi is quicker.
Yeah.
Heoi,
Yeah.
ko te whakahua te mea nei, kona te tō whakatakatoronga te pene.
Kia ora.
Aye.
Before we move on there, Tai, I just want to understand, me pēhea e whakaoti ai I tētahi rerenga e whakamahi ana I taua kiwaha. You know, e pai ana kia, e marama ana ki te whakamahinga, heoi anō tāu, he hanga me whai I tērā kiwaha. He, heoi anō tāu, he?
Well, so I would say there are two main options. It would be heoi anō tāu, he pina pina muni.
Aye.
Ne? You could possibly get away with a ko after that.
Aye. Ko rangona tēnā.
Aye. So you got a heoi anō tāu, ko te whakapātu,
Aye, yes.
you know, ki te kaumātua or something like that.
Aye.
But beyond those two options, there's a natural flow within kiwaha and within conversation.
Kia ora.
I mean, you can get quite technical and make it specific to the context. But in terms of the natural flow on from the kiwaha, I would suggest heoi anō tāu, he, whatever. Heoi anō tāu, ko, whatever.
Kia ora. Ka pai.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ka pai.
I want to go on more but because it's such an interesting
Same.
kupu.
I know, I've got plenty of other questions, but
Yeah. Me haere tonu.
Oh, ka pai. No reire hoa ma. Ngai Taringa, if you remember back to our last Kupu episode, we had a really good conversation about whakapapa.
Oh, yes, kia ora.
And, you know, just a bit of a huri tau. We went through a number of kupu that possibly aren't heard often within everyday conversation. And we had a look at alternate words for kaumātua like kauheke, mātāpuputu, pēpere ko, koeke, all those sorts of words. And the difference between whaia, ko whaia, whaerere, all those e rā momo kupu. And then, of course, we started having a really good conversation about the word uri.
Kia ora.
And hopefully there was something there that people can take away with them that made sense as to why uri would be a term which doesn't really follow the rules of an or when pertaining to whakapapa.
He pai tērā kōrero e hoa, because I want to say I can use it with confidence now. With some well-informed kōrero, to have me use that with confidence. So, e koutou mai, if you're using ngā uri o without any idea or you're worried about being questioned upon what else to why, go back to the episode and mā reira pia e, you know, you get some confidence and understanding as to why.
Yeah, and of course, you know, that was just my explanation in terms of my understanding of the word. And if anything does come from it, you know, perhaps you accept that, or perhaps you may want to do your own research and a discussion may actually develop, because it's, as Kahurangi was saying, you know, there are a lot of people out there now trying to use te uri a, and, you know, people are being quite assertive about it. So, you know, a conversation needs to be had. I certainly know that I never heard te uri a when I was growing up, and of course with our old people. So, you know, koira a tātou kōrero previously when we had our other episode, and I just really want to progress our kōrero to address some of the things that we actually didn't have time to go through before. Nā reira, I actually, kia tīmata tātou ki e tehi anō kupu e pāna ki te whakapapa.
Kia ora.
You know, so let's start our conversation with some other words that pertain to whakapapa, but that I think a lot of our listeners may not have heard before. And I want to start with the word karanga.
Kia ora. Ai, ka pai.
And how karanga can be used in conjunction with whakapapa. So, you know, we have this word karangatanga.
Kia ora.
Ne, karangatanga. And karangatanga, you know, when we have a look at the word, it can mean relatives, or it can mean broad groupings.
yeah.
Broad groupings, so that's karangatanga. Now, of course, the first time I heard the word karanga used in conjunction with another whakapapa term was when I went to this marae, and it's actually mōkau kohunui
Kia ora.
in Pio there. And he tangihanga te take I haere ai mātou, and ka tūtaki au ki tētahi o aku tūpuna, kare anō au I tūtaki I taua wā. So I hadn't met him yet, but I knew of him, and I knew he was a well-renowned kaumātua within our iwi. And ko te ingoa te kaumātua nei, ko Uncle Tohe Rauputu.
Oh, rauputu. Ai.
He was a very well-renowned kaumātua. Anyway, my grandfather said, and this is possibly another kiwaha, whenever you meet someone for the first time, you have an inkling as to who they are, anei te kōrero, you know. So he told me that if I was to meet someone, I knew of them, but I had forgotten their name or where we had met. My grandfather said to me, this is what you say. And so ka tai atu au ki a Uncle Tohe me te ki atu, e koro, e a wanga nāu ki tō kanohi. Ne? E a wanga nāu ki tō kanohi.
Oh, beautiful.
And ka te tiro mai te kaumātua, he looked at me and he knew I had been taught by our own. And then he said to me, e koro, nā wai koe. You know, who do you belong to? And I said, he mokopuna au nā maanga, so I'm maanga's mokopuna. And then, of course, he replied to me and he said, hei karanga kōtiro tēnā ki au.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hei karanga kōtiro tēnā ki au. And that's the first time I had heard the word karanga kōtiro used.
Yes, yes.
Kia ora.
Yeah. Now, karanga kōtiro, and the way we use karanga, he could have said, he kōtiro tēnā nāku. Yeah.
Aye.
Ka pai. But when he used the word karanga kōtiro, it doesn't imply that it is his actual daughter.
Yes.
Kia ora.
But what he says is, she's like a daughter to me.
Yes, marama.
Yeah. So it implies that there is a whakapapa relationship there, but not necessarily a close relationship. Now, that's my take on it.
Aye.
Yeah.
Ka pai, because I then started to think, well, what's the difference between kōtiro and karanga kōtiro?
Kia ora. Yeah.
Aye.
What's the difference between fire keke, and karanga fire?
Karanga whae. Aye.
Ko ngā layers.
Koira. Yeah. So when we have a look at how karanga can be used in terms of whakapapa, I think it shows that there is a whakapapa relationship there, but not necessarily a close one.
Aye.
Because I would never, well, I suppose you can call an auntie a karanga whaia, yeah?
Aye.
But you say, hey karanga whaia tēnā ki au, hey karanga matua tēnā ki au, that's like a mother or a father to me. But when we start talking about karanga kōtiro, karanga tamaiti, once again, I think there's whakapapa link there, but not necessarily a close one. And it shows the difference between a kōtiro and a karanga kōtiro, if that makes any sense.
Aye.
Yes, makes sense.
Nō reira, e tai ko maanga tō kuia tō krauara nei.
Oh, taku kuia, ai.
Tō kuia, nā reira i ki ai, he karanga kōtiro ki au.
Ai, kuinga.
Ie, marama nau nai nei.
Aye.
Yeah.
And that's how we used it. And I thought to myself, well, you know, for our listeners here, there is also, you know, within the whakapapa terms, we can show, for want of a better word, a distance in terms of a relationship.
Yeah.
Or even proximity as well, you know,
Koina.
without having to explain, well, this is my use of it. He karanga whae ia ki au.
Koina.
Or he karanga tamaiti.
And of course, te pua Haiti needed to trump my word distance and use the word proximity. And kei te pai tēnā. But you know, yeah, that's exactly right, e hoa. You know, when we're talking about proximity, I think there are whakapapa terms in there that allude to that proximity in terms of relationships.
Aye.
So then what do you think of so when we've got karanga tahi, karanga rua, like that indicates like first line, second line in terms of whakapapa, ka whakamahia, kei tērā momo whakatakoto, or karanga maha, karanga whana, like there's so many.
Yeah, there is so many. When you have, you know, karangatanga, karanga maha, karanga rua.
Aye.
Now, you know, I don't usually use karangarua.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
Yeah.
You know, and I never really heard my old people use karangarua. Not saying that they did, but I always remember them referring to each other, even though they were first, second cousins. Oh, ko taku tungane tērā, ko taku tuahi ne tērā.
Aye.
You know,
Yeah.
but that didn't help me because I actually wanted to know how they were, how they were actually related. You know.
Yes.
So they use taku tungane, taku tuahine, and karangarua is not a term that I use myself or I've heard used, but pewhi kia koe tikanga o te karangarua e tai?
Yeah. Kei konei katoa ku whakaro, ku whakamahi e au tērā hei tohu atu ki te tangata. Yeah, his second cousin. Hoi no, hei whakamahu ki nōna, you know, using that karangarua. But aye, karangatahi for my first cousins, karangarua if someone needs to know as to how we are cousins.
Oh, ka pai.
Yeah.
Before the first date.
Yeah, and when... Nice. But I wonder if that was just introduced, you know, because that's how Pākehā identify
Koina
their
hoki
family
taku te tiro.
groupings. Hari te mea e ki ana kei te he tō whakamahi i tērā, but that's probably why, because, you know, we're kind of like, we're all whānau.
Yeah.
Engari ki te hihia, koe ki te ata whakamārama kei hia tērā hononga whakapapa nei.
Aye. Koina hoki taku tirohanga a ki taua whakamahinga.
Yeah, ka pai. So, you know, there's a whole lot of whakapapa terms out there that use karanga in conjunction, karangata maiti, all those sorts of examples. And I think it's just good for our Taringa listeners to be exposed to.
Yes.
In terms of karangarua, kaori aku kōrero e pāniki taua kupu, but I know it's widely used throughout te ao Māori, and mehe mea i ahu mai i te whakaaro ki te whakapapa Pākehā, kia au nei e pai ana tērā.
Ai.
And I know that our people from te Taitokerau, they use the word kahi.
Kahi.
Heaps, eh?
Or mete.
Or mete.
Kahi. Yeah, ai.
Ai.
So e hoa mā, that's a couple of kupu that we can introduce into our kite kupu.
E nā koe.
And there's also words like hungawai or hungarei.
Kia ora.
Yeah, which most people use.
Tā hungawai, hungarei, does that depend on the gender of the in-law or nā?
Karekau.
It's the same. Yeah.
Karekau, kia mātou, kare au I tupu ake I roto I te whakamahinga o te hungarei.
Ai.
Ko te kupu kia mātou, ko te hungawai.
Ai.
Ne? And then, of course, I realised that the majority of Māoridom actually use hungarei. He pai tērā kia au. But of course, when we start getting into ko taku hungawai tēnei, and if you can't see them, and if you don't know if they're a male or a female, then, karangi rua ngā whakaaro o te tangata.
Ai.
And, now I've heard hungawai or hungarei is starting to be expanded upon, so you could have hungarei tāne, hungarei wahine.
Okay.
Just to reflect mother-in-law and father-in-law. And of course, hunaonga, son or daughter-in-law.
Kia ora. Hunaonga. Yeah.
Ai.
I used to always get those mixed up. Even pēhea ko te taukete, me te au wahine.
Ai, me te au tāne.
Au tāne, yeah. Hea te me e hāngai ana ki tō ira. I orite ana ki tō ira. Ko te taukete tērā.
Ko te taukete tēnā.
Kia ora.
Ai. No reira, my brother-in-law would be taku taukete.
Kia ora.
My sister-in-law would be taku au wahine.
Au wahine, yeah. I remember first learning, coming to grips with those terms and introducing my brother as my otāne.
Ka pai.
Whakawahine au ia hau. Whakawahine au ia hau. I'm like, taku otāne tēnā, o mea rāwa te. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have taukete, au wahine, otāne, and there's a whole lot of... So talking about whakapapa can be quite a perplexing process, really, and just taking Te Puaheiri's example that by using the word otāne, by using the word otāne, he actually put himself as a female. Ne? O hoi anō, tātou katoa ka pērā I ōna wā.
Ai.
Ne? Ia tātou e ako nei te reo. So let's get into some sentence structures that I think would be good for our listeners.
Kia ora.
And so we've got a whole lot of kupu now, ngai taringa, that we can use. But actually, how do we speak about whakapapa?
Kia ora.
And I just want to give 2 examples as to how we can speak about our whakapapa. If I go back to how my uncle Tohe used karanga kōtiro, he used it in this structure, hei karanga kōtiro tēnā ki ao. Ne? So, hei karanga kōtiro tēnā ki ao.
Yeah.
And when he said that, what he's actually saying, if we were to try and translate it as closely as to it is phrased, it is, she is like a daughter to me.
Yeah. Ko te hei tērā.
Ko te hei, yeah?
Yeah.
A daughter to me, yeah? She is a daughter to me. There's another way he could have phrased it, which is, he karanga kōtiro tēnā nāku. He karanga kōtiro tēnā nāku. And there's a slight difference there, and what he would have said if he used that structure is, that is a daughter of mine. Yeah? So that is a daughter of mine. So, hei karanga kōtiro tēnā ki au, she is a daughter to me. He karanga kōtiro tēnā nāku, she is a daughter of mine.
Kia ora.
2 different ways of phrasing the same relationship, essentially. Hoi anō, he rereke,
Kia ora.
the way that they are phrased. And it's something that I've heard mixed up, actually, because they sound quite similar, between the hei and the he. So I've heard, hei karanga kōtiro tēnā nāku, and I would say, o kao. Hei karanga kōtiro tēnā ki ao. So it's really the hei, the hei with the ki,
and the kio,
and the he with either the nā or the no. Like, he whaia tēnā nōku.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Yeah? Or you could say, hei whaia tēnā ki ao. Yeah?
Ai tērā.
So in terms of the 2 different ways of speaking about whakapapa, these are the 2 sentences that I often hear people getting a little bit mixed up on.
Kia ora. Ai. Yeah. Kei konei au whakaaro ana ki taua kupu, hey, that's a bit of a challenge for me to use it a bit more, but use it in the right way, because I would naturally probably go to the hair, because, hey, I'd have to think a little bit more.
Yes, yeah.
Hoi anō, pai, tino pai.
Yeah. Koia hoki, tika tau kahurangi, we're becoming, with Jared here is creating an awareness of how we can specify our relationship to others without going to our defaults. Now, hoi no tātāua, he whakamahi e nei rerenga hou, ne?
Kia ora.
That's what we have to do, is because, it takes a bit of thinking until kia Māori rā no ki roto i a tātou.
Ai marika.
Yeah, but I can see it now, it's pai. And pai tō whakamahinga, Jared, i te kupu nōku mo te karangatanga kei runga ki a koe, he tika ana tēnā?
Ai, e tika ana tēnā. Kei tau reanga rānei.
Ai,
ne?
Kia ora.
He tuakana.
Orera, he tuakana nōku.
Ai, he teina nōku.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Yeah. And this is a really good segue, hei, into the final kaupapa that I really want to have a kōrero about, and it's about the āno.
Kia ora.
And we're just going to have a conversation, because I know there are a lot of different thoughts around āno. And, I've been teaching āno for a little while now, and I think I've heard most of the rationales as to why people choose the āno in terms of whakapapa. Now, e hoa mā, the āno doesn't have anything to do with age or within place of birth, in order of birth.
Kia ora.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people who think, oh, well, this person is older than me, so then they deserve to be in the all category.
But my feet are bigger than his.
Yeah, well, there you go. And, of course, in terms of tuakana teina, they see that as being a rationale to possibly put the teina in the R category because they were born second or third to that particular person. And, really just trying to clarify, or once again clarify, maybe it's been discussed before, that anyone on the same generation, tuakana teina, tungane tuahine, they're all in the all relationship to one another.
Kia ora.
Yeah? So it's got to do with generation there, Huama. Even, ngai taringa, can you believe it, that a lot of people in terms of whakapapa would say, tōku tungane and tāku tuahine. Yeah? And that's a male-female thing.
Ai.
And there are a lot of men out there who think that tuahine are in the R category because it's a female. And we just need to dispel all of that right here and now.
Kia ora, kia ora.
It has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with order of birth.
Ai.
It's all about generation, e te whānau.
Generation, kia ora.
Tapai. I was waiting for Kahurangi's reaction. She goes, what?
Well, okay.
Wahine are in the R?
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I know. And that's quite a chauvinist way of viewing whakapapa.
Well, this is what we're dispelling ne hae hoa.
That's right.
We're trying to break ideals and philosophies that we think are Māori. Engari, kao.
Kao.
Ai.
I never ever heard any of our old people, my old people rather, say, ko tāku tuahine tēnei. I'm like,
Ai.
Where and when did this start becoming a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tika. And I think too we get, mo tātou e ako ana ne, we get really precious about certain concepts in terms of te reo, and then we get a bit too deep. Whereas sometimes you've just got to draw the line and go, no, it's all, and that's it. That's why. And I think to just like relieve, if you're struggling with this e hoa mā, it's to relieve yourself of that idea and this is it. And then go from there.
Yep.
Don't worry about why. Just go like, this is it, and then start building from there. And then we're trying to get returning whakaaro Māori to our reo and our usage.
Ai. E tino tautoko anau I tēnā kōrero e hei. I couldn't agree more e te whānau. Yeah, so it is an opportunity to dispel a lot of, I'm not too sure if it's misinformation.
Well, how else did they learn
Could be.
it?
It could be
How
a little
else
bit
did
of
they-
that,
Yeah.
And also political. Could be a little bit political
Absolutely.
as well, Hoi anō. This is what wānanga is about. What's funny is like, I au e whakarongo nei, tēnei, I tētahi hui ahau, I tērā wiki, both of the words and the things that we're talking about were brought up. It was a panel discussion, and one of the ladies, she had finished her kōrero, she turned to the next lady who I know understands the whakapapa of way things work, and she said, ka hoa tui te rākau kōrero ki taku tuahine. And those of us sitting in the room, and it ka tiki atu I e te hopu oro. She's like, tēnā koe, o tirai mihi ana ki ngā karanga whanaunga e noho nei. Because there were a few other wahine sitting on the panel, and that was her way of kindly saying, that tuahine tuakana teina. Oh, she said, e mihi ana ki ngā tuakana, kei wanga nui ngā karanga tuakana, or something like that. I can't remember if she said karanga tuakana, but it was to kind of remind kindly, e hara hau I thought, well, I'm not your sister, not in that way, but, you know,
ai,
differentiate.
Aye, and what a beautiful way of addressing
I
that.
know, I thought that too. I said, oh, tēnā koe. It was beautiful, yeah.
And rather than directly correcting that person, you exemplify the proper way to do it.
Aye.
You know, the correct way to do it. Nō reira he pai tēnā.
I do that with my kids all the time.
Yeah, well, that's the easy part. We can do that. Just one thing, he tai, is it okay to address someone as teina? So, you know, ka tū tētahi ki mua nei au, ana ka whakai au ki tāna kōrero. Ka tū ake au ki te ki. Hei taunaki nei I ngā kōrero o tōku teina.
Aye.
You know, but is there a faux pas Māori I roto I tērā?
Yeah, I hear you.
To acknowledge someone as a teina? Because I think we're getting precious over tuakana teina. Engari, he meka tērā, he tika.
Koina. And, you know, if you're going to use the word teina, make sure you know your whakapapa.
Kia ora.
You know, make sure you know your whakapapa. I went to an 80th back home at Mokai Kāinga, and one of these kaumātua got up and he did his mihi to the person who was celebrating his 80th, and he said, nō reira e taku teina.
Kia ora.
And, you know, kāre tētahi I hamumu, you know, we knew the whakapapa. And ko ia tērā. So if a person is a tuakana, he or she is a tuakana. If they're a teina, he or she is a teina. It's how you use the word.
Kia ora.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
It's how you use the word. And if it's a way of belittling people, then, you know, I wouldn't do that myself. I would find another way.
Ai. Ai, kia ora, kia ora.
Ka pai?
Tino.
Pai.
Last kaupapa e te whānau, and it's the biggie. Now, why did I leave the big one right at the end? I want to have a kōrero about the relationship between a tāne and a wahine.
Kia ora.
Ka pai? And I know there's a lot of discussion out there, and I'm just giving you my viewpoint on how we can speak about the relationship between a tāne and a wahine me te whakamahi I te ā me te o.
Kia ora.
Now, I grew up in the Te Rangatahi series, e hoa mā, and I know there may be a lot of listeners out there, and I can remember when reading those booklets, ko hata te tāne a pani, ko pani te wahine a hata.
Kia ora.
Yeah. So when we have a look at that relationship, when we're using tāne and wahine, when we use tāne and wahine alone, the relationship is a. Ka pai?
Kia ora.
Ko hata te tāne a pani, ko pani te wahine a hata. E pai ana tērā, I heard my old people use it all the time. Now, when we start using compound nouns, when we start using compound nouns like hoa wahine
Ai.
and hoa tāne,
Right.
it's not so clear. Now, there are people...
Oh my goodness, we are on the big stuff.
Yeah, it's not so clear. So there are a lot of people out there when referring to husband and wife, they use the context of the relationship,
Right.
to deem whether or not it's a or o. So there are some speakers out there, and some kaiako, e pai ana tēnei,
Ai.
that would say te tāne a, and then they would also say te hoa tāne a, because they're saying, well, actually the relationship hasn't changed. Yeah. Now, I grew up and heard those terms used differently. Yeah. So our old people, there was a big difference between te tāne a and te hoa tāne o.
Kia ora.
I never heard our old people say te hoa tāne a. They would say te hoa tāne o, because when you're using compound nouns, the word hoa supersedes the relationship in terms of tāne and wahine. Yeah? And we know within te ā me te o, all of our hoa are always referred to in the o category.
Kia ora.
You know, ko tōku hoa tēnei. So when we start using the words hoa tāne and hoa wahine, it then changes to an or relationship because of the word hoa used within that compound noun. So, ko hata, te hoa tāne o pani, ko pani, te hoa wahine o hata, o ko pani, te hoa rangatira o hata, ko pani, te hoa rangai tapu, so on and so forth. So that's probably the real confusing bit within whakapapa,
Kia ora.
is when we start talking about tāne and wahine. And it has nothing to do with mana. E hoa mā, doesn't have anything to do with mana.
I hope so.
Doesn't have anything to do with...
About your total income.
Yeah, total income. Or if you've
Who
put
does
a
the
ring on
ironing?
it or not. You know,
Aye, kia
it's got
ora.
nothing to do with that.
Right.
It's all got to do with actual kupu.
Kia ora.
Yes.
Now, that's how I teach the relationship between tāne and wahine.
You know, that's a great way of teaching it because it helps to kind of anchor on something rather than just...
Aye.
Yes, that's what I agree on that too. If we just look at grammatical functions of the words, you know, it's more solid to anchor on, as you said, kahuranga.
Yeah.
So, Jared, you can say, haere ki te pāti, kimihia i tētahi hoa tāne mōu.
Ka pai.
And if I said, kimihia tētahi tāne māu, koina te rerekitanga, ka whai tonu tērā i te tikanga o te āmete o.
Koina, ka taka atu ana te hoa, ko noho ā. Ne?
Ah.
Ka piri ana te hoa, ko rereke, ko oi nai
Yes.
nei.
Yes.
And it's all because of how hoa supersedes
Ka pai.
the tāne or the wahine.
Ka pai. So if you didn't know e te iwi, if you have a hoa, a friend, a hoa, kei roto ia i te o category. Ko te o hoa kei roto i te o category. Pai tērā.
It's really helpful.
Yeah. And hea i ā ai te tāne me te wahine.
Well, I've heard it all, e hoa mā. You know,
We've heard it
ai
all.
I ai te tāne me te wahine. And one explanation that was shared with me, and it was actually shared by Te Heketu Blake, you know, and ki tāna, kāre he tapu i wāinga nui i te tāne me te wahine. You know, kāre he tapu i wāinga nui a rāua.
Ai.
Seen it all, done it all, if you know what I mean.
Ai. Yeah.
And that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't need an explanation in order for me to accept that tāne and wahine were are to one another.
Kia ora.
Because it was just something that was ingrained in me. But when I heard that explanation, I thought to myself, oh yeah, he pai tēnā whakamāramatanga.
Ai.
I'm a bit fixated on your kitana. I don't use that often. You said, kitana.
Well,
Same as hei tāna? Hei kotana?
yes, yeah, hei tāna, ki tāna.
Ki hei ki tāna.
Yeah, and of course I use the word tāna because I'm referring to explanation, and whakamāramatanga is in the a.
Yes.
Ai.
Yeah, the reira ki tāna, so on and so
gonna
forth.
use that.
But yeah, that was his explanation there, hoa mā.
Beautiful.
Within Whakapapa, trying to dispel a lot of misconceptions out there
Aye.
in terms of relationship between tāne, wahine, male, female,
Yeah.
or.
Born on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
Born
there
on a
you
Wednesday. All the bloody. Yeah.
Just before we finish up, I'm just going to throw a spanner in the works.
Oh.
And it's something that I heard at a kura reo. Nā timoti tēnei kōrero, and I'll never forget it because I thought it was a beauty. And I used it in my class, actually, half an hour after he said it. And I pēnei, i te noho rāua ko te tihi atu wahine, te wahine takakau, kāre he tāna.
Ai.
And ka kia atu a timoti ki aia, haere ki te kimi koroua māu.
Ai, kia ora.
Yeah, haere ki te kimi koroua māu. And for a lot of our listeners, they'll be going, koroua? I thought koroua was in the or category, but then Timothy has used it in the are category. And of course, what he was saying is, go and find yourself an old man
Aye.
in reference to a tāne.
Ai.
Yeah? So, for our Taringa listeners, we know koroua is in the or category as a word. But within the context that Timothy was using it, and by using it in the are, he was actually meaning tāne. Yeah? He could have said, if there was a single guy sitting next to him, he could have said, haere ki te kimi kui a māu.
Ai.
Yeah? Go and find yourself an old lady, so to speak. And of course, he was referring to a wahine.
Ai.
Ka pai?
I have some dear friends and they refer to each other in that sense. I said, kei he te hoa, ko haere a karaua ki te mahi.
Aye.
Koe nā.
Yeah. And they're younger than myself, so koina tō rāua karangatanga kei wainganui a rāua.
Ai. Nō reira hoa mā, I think that may be it for this session there.
That was a goodie.
E a tāhua kato tēnei wānanga a tēnei kōrero au e tai, e Jared. E mihi atu ana.
O, ko te mea pai.
Ai.
Yeah, e pai hoki tēnei te mea he rite tonu tā tātou kōrero, tā tātou whakamahinga kupu whakapapa nei. Engari, kei reira e tahi mea, we've got to drill down a little bit further to understand why, but then just be clear that we're using it in the right way and
Yeah.
a bit more naturally as well. Yeah, hea tāhua tēnei.
Ai, kamatu ko te tumanako ia kua tahi a e tahi parapara.
Koe nā, tēnā koe e hoa.
Rehu ana nei, te titiro o te hunga e ako ana i enei kōrero mo te whakapapa. Nā te he mea nui ki a tātou te ao Māori te whakapapa.
Koe nā.
Tēnō, tētahi mātāpono no nui e ki ai tātou a he Māori. no reira, he hira tēnei kōrero. Ai.
Ai, no reira ngai taringa, ko te whakarongo mai nā, ko te tumanako, ko puta he oranga I roto I tā mātou kōrero I te rangi nei. Hoi no tā tātou atu I nai nei, he whakau, he whakau, he whakau.
Mm-hmm. Kia ora.
So, e te whānau, all we really have to do is be a little bit adventurous, yeah? And actually being a little bit more considered as well, in terms of if we are going to speak about whakapapa, let's try and use some of the new sentences or some of the new words that we may have picked up from this episode, or really be sure, if we are going to use the a and or, that we understand the rationale as to why we are using te wahine a or te hoa wahine o.
Yeah.
Koe no, tēnei au e mihi atu nei. Ka pai. Another awesome episode e te whānau.
Oh, very, very, very awesome. Ka nui te mihi ki a koe e hoa.
Ai. Wai te iwi, I mua I tana wehenga atu, hoi anō tāna he whakahuaki nei I te waiata mo te wiki kei a koe e tai, e Jared.
Oh, ka pai e hoa mā. This takes me back to the time when I was skinny at university and one of my lecturers, Hirini Melbourne, ka pai, and this is a tribute to him, mai te kākano, whakarongo mai.
Ahoa, ko pahu te hirikapo.
Tino pai tērā. Ka hoki atu au ki te whakarongo ki ngā kōrero Jared. He's so awesome.
Yeah. And these things, me hoki ki e nei kōrero ne. There's so much to learn and pick apart and I mean, we could have sat on Heoi anō.
That's right. I had some more questions.
Well, yeah, and because we have so many renderings in Te Tai Tokiro, hoi nano,
Tika.
hoi rano, hoi nei anō, but we can revisit those another time.
Puritia.
I didn't want to derail our conversation as we were heading into the kōrero mō whakapapa, but yeah, another time.
That's right. And kāre kore mō te hunga whakarongo kei rātou i tahi pātai.
Aye.
So.
And you know, that's the thing, Te Iwi, and a lot of we get great feedback that she's hearing a lot of people that listen in, especially for kupu. You know, if you have any pātai, that's what I say. One, Taringa, we are always grateful that Taringa is finding value in your learning journey. Koina te mea nui. And two, if you have any kōrero or any feedback, any pātai, send them in.
Send them all to Te Puaheiri. Hoi anō.
Send them to our IG, send them to our Facebook, send them to those two. Yeah. PM, whatever.
Get them in.
Get them in.
Ka pai, that's us.
Hoi no e te iwi.
Ai.
Yeah. Kanui tēnā mō tēnei wiki. E mihi ana kia koutou katoa. Tēnā o ki koe kahurangi o te raki tō tātou hoa. Jared, e mihi ana ki aia.
Kia koutou katoa.
We'll hear from you later. Hei kona.
Ka kite.
Tahuri mai ki au, whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing at the hook of force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira whakarongo pi kari mai. Hare mai, o Taringa hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody, gather up close everybody. Kani move that body, kani move that body.
Taringa. He mea tuku nā te wānanga o Aotearoa, ā, nā te māngai pāho me irirangi te motu I tautoko. To listen to more episodes, search for us on your podcast app and subscribe, or follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Taringa. Whakarongo mai.